something is explicitly cringe, you know the comments are going to be a little nasty, historically, right? And when it came to things like creators, they were typically called out. They were typically dragged online when they explicitly mentioned or subliminally mentioned another creator or a community that was in a disrespectful way, and they would get dragged for that, rightfully, right? And that was sort of par for the course at that time. But I think nowadays, with the modern scape of the internet, the modern scape of our culture, the barrier to entry to hating online and in person is honestly at an all-time low.
I have to admit, the first time I ever heard someone say, "Why would you waste all your energy being a hater? Why would you waste all that negative energy?" I was genuinely confused. I was genuinely confused. I was like, waste all that energy? What are you talking about? Because in my case, hating takes zero energy. It takes nothing out of me. Hating to me is as easy as breathing. It comes naturally to me. I expend more energy lifting my pinky finger than I do hating. I have that gift. I was just born with that natural hater ability. I didn't realize it was different for other people. I was really shocked to find out that like hating takes something out of people, that they have to think about it a lot. Like I don't have to think hard to hate something. I can just see something, hate that, I keep it moving. I don't have to stay up foaming at the mouth, doing like other people. It was shocking to learn. And to learn that hating something takes something out of them at all. Like hate to me, that's my fuel. It gives me energy. I accomplish so much out of spite, some of my best work. And if that's not the case for you, like to each their own, but it is ultimately just a skill issue.
And also, before I continue, I want to say that I love this creator. I love Kira Down. She's so funny in everything that I said, and I'm going to say. It's not related to her as a person or as a creator. It's more so towards the sentiment, because there are a large amount of people that, although that TikTok was very lighthearted, there are a lot of people that genuinely feel that way. And it really speaks to the masses of people that relate to this. It's all to come up for crazy levels of hate and toxicity to circulate online now, and in this facet of internet culture, I feel like we really are returning to true form, or the true form of the internet. Like for the past couple of years, it's such an interesting building, in my opinion. But the internet, by and large, had become more of a subdued place. The internet became a space of more political correctness than I think had ever been.
Yes!
There was and always
I figured it out. And then we want...
negative discourse.
That was still connected.
But I don't think that
We want to make it so this gets pulled first, and then this one gets pulled next. Because if this happens, this doesn't work, because these two are connected. Would he pull this disconnect these two, and then we destroy this, and this goes back.
Twitter days, Rihanna.
I understand it.
Exemplify what it meant to be on the internet back
I see. Okay.
A celebrity cursing out.
So that was a dumb
whether they be a regular person or a celebrity themselves. Like the Twitter beefs back in the day were wild, and then they calmed down. They calmed down for a bit, and now we've been seeing them ramp up a lot.
This is where it is. This is where the probably the
one other thing that has been brought back, in addition to the Twitter beefs, which can also
the door
is the increased use in slurring, and this is where things have gotten especially spooky, in my opinion.
Dear Gen Z, can we talk about the R slur and the F slur? I'm a high school teacher, and I hear the R slur and the F slur almost every day, and I think that is so odd. When I was growing up in the early 90s, we were taught you did not say the R word, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, then Google it.
retard.
And we were also taught you don't use the F word, right? For
fuck.
People. That
I'll say it.
Common practice. Like no one said it. It was you were in trouble in school. You were in trouble with your parents if you said it. You did not say it because everyone knew those were highly offensive words. And so, to my shock, in the last year or so, students are saying the R word all the time. There are students saying the F slur all the time, which I find so weird, right? Why are we regressing, right? If we knew things were wrong in the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s,
that's what
teenagers in 2020.
Okay, so we wanted to activate this.
Offensive word. Gen Z, you were supposed to be the generation that saves us. You were supposed to be the future. You were supposed to be the most woke generation. Then please act like it. Stop saying the R slur and the F slur. Thank you kindly from Dr. Bafumi.
So when we talk about the renormalization of slurs and other previously ousted or taboo behaviors, we need to first level set to make sure we're all on the same page for like what is happening. So as the previous TikTok kind of alluded to and explained, slurs like the R word and the F word have been making a comeback, as well as an increasing amount of content of people trying to get non-black people to say
okay, so we need to deactivate this.
Using the N-word for shock value.
We need to be able to activate where this one gets activated last.
stereotypes
And then-
are really popular.
And then as soon as you unflip the lever, this gets turned off first.
For Black and Asian
And then
people,
this one gets turned off. And then this one.
Saying outlandish
And then
things online
this.
about Indian people, as well as making racially insensitive sounds trend and
Get
the
this.
use and normalization.
These get turned
of
off.
This word
And
right
then
here.
we have this turn on. And then this turn on. And then we have this turn off and this turn off. Just so we can.
And all this together just makes a terrible combination, in my opinion, because what are we actually doing? And the fact that it seems like, for a lot of people, that they just don't really care anymore is wild to me, because these used to be, like, foundational things. So, like, oh yeah, you don't do that. Like, you don't say that. You don't say these things. And they used to be jokes that you kind of just, like, looked at someone crazy for making, like, you're like, wow, really? Because they weren't necessarily funny before back in 2010. Like, the punchline is and has always been, like, the racial stereotype. And I guess at one point people found that funny, and then there was a period where people were like, all right, the punchline is just a racial stereotype. There's nothing really funny about that. And now the pendulum has sort of swung back to, like, oh my god, stereotype jokes are funny again. And that's kind of wild to me. According to a culture article from Fox, the resurgence of the R word can also be seen as a sign that mainstream culture has gotten less censorous.
My brain couldn't comprehend. Was like, why the hell is this not working?
Attitude was not offending anybody.
It's because
now
we have to do this one first, then this one,
and if you are,
then this one,
and the R word
then this one.
on that line. And I think that this quote is really.
I don't know how this got over here.
Into this conversation, because I do think that there are definitely some truth there. I think a lot of the 2010s were.
And then we have technically with this.
I hate this word because it's been co-opted and shifted so much. Woke. And for a large group of people, it felt like they were walking on eggshells and could not really say certain things or say things the way that they wanted to say them. And now that we're in the world that we are today, more both media and culture have been backing
we need to hit this.
levels of progressiveness of the 2010s.
Okay, let's mark it.
We are seeing those lines for what is okay and what is not okay shift a little bit. Like, of course, no one wants to be called outwardly racist or problematic, but the culture has been shifting more, with counterculture sort of becoming more of the mainstream culture, if that makes sense. And it's not to say that everyone's just becoming bigoted. Some people definitely are. But I think we're definitely seeing an era where people are becoming more so fatigued with being censored for how they show up and how they've been speaking. And I think that we're really seeing that be validated a lot culturally and politically with the climate that we're in right now. The things like free speech, fact-checking, and content moderation seemingly being decreased or just generally dropped.
And then we need these to repeat, so I let Marcus put this.
What I really want to talk about in this point specifically is that when it comes to things like slurring, we're seeing a crazy resurgence, or more so emergence, of using slurs and just generally being more so hateful in younger people, as well as older people. Like, of course, when it comes to really young people just be saying, like, you can expect middle schoolers, high schoolers to say some of the most vile or outlandish things.
This is one.
Because that is
this
what
is
young
two.
people
This is
to do.
three.
But
This is
usually
four.
these behaviors get corrected over time. And you learn that, yeah, you can't really say all of these things because they are either offensive, they are rude, or they will bring you negative consequences. But I think that what we've been seeing is that that part has not been happening, or at least is not happening to the same degree, because the culture is different. The cultures do not necessarily reward politically correct or non-problematic behavior. Like, think about the media that young people, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, consume. Like, it's mostly content from creators. I mean, oftentimes when creators receive backlash from saying these problematic or otherwise unsavory things, nothing usually comes of it. And if anything of it's really bad, they find this alternative audience that actually likes and will support them for saying these off-the-wall things. Like, I think it's very rare for public figures to be canceled nowadays, because cancel culture just generally has not been a thing, and as time has gone on, people have started to catch on to this and realize that, yeah, you can pretty much say anything, whether it be offensive to people or not, and you will still have an audience. The audience may be different, and you may get a lot of pushback, but you will always have some sort of audience. And I think the recognition of that has had some impact on people in real life, although the stage is a little bit different when we switch from online to offline, because there is a little bit more pushback for that. And if you've been on the internet for any time in the past couple of years, and especially on the educational side of the internet, you'd hear from a bunch of educators talking about how the kids aren't alright, and they are just generally meaner and more hostile towards each other and towards authority.
They're quitting is because these kids are mean, and they're making the class.
I was ready to be paid absolutely nothing. I was ready to have to figure out how to teach to a test, and also
also to teach to my students' needs. I was ready for parents to be either accusatory, unreliable, or outright hostile. I was ready for kids to not like school and to act out in normal kid ways, and I was prepared with fidgets and natural consequences and building relationships. But the system was not prepared for the volume and the scale of behaviors that they are seeing right now. At my school, we had, 1, 2, 3 levels of intervention, and every single kid, if you follow the chart, would hit the top of the intervention plan. And those interventions are so time-consuming that they're not designed to be done on every single kid in a grade. In my school, we had grades where 70-80% of the kids should have been in intensive counseling. They were sometimes active dangers to themselves and others, and you couldn't get them removed until something had happened and it was already too late. And there's 1,000,001 answers to why the kids are acting like this, but the apparent reason, the one behind all of them, is both very easy and very hard to wrap our heads around. Do you remember in the beginning of the pandemic that feeling that you had when you still had to do everyday things like go to work or go to the grocery store when the whole world was falling apart around you? Do you remember how it felt like a betrayal of your humanity in a lot of ways to go about your daily life when there were people who were suffering as much as they were? Do you think about that now? How often do you think about that? How profound of a long-term effect did it have on you? Now imagine you're 9.
Then you just do this.
Your grandma in the nursing home.
Oh, this I just simplified it way better.
Go see her every Sunday.
I simplified it. All you gotta do is this,
you can't go to school.
then
you can't see your friends. You can't
activate this.
But you still have to turn on your computer.
Oh my god. Basically, all you have to do is 1, 2, 3. We gotta make sure these activate in this order, and then we gotta make sure this activates, this deactivates, this deactivates, this deactivates, and then another trigger comes here to grab this, and then we go, oh my god. This is way simpler than I thought it was. Oh my god. I complicated it with 2 pistons.
And so they're losing it because the world is losing it.
Wait, my brain is lowkey.
Like adults can, and this is how it's showing. I don't know what the answer to it is, but this is where it's coming from.
And there are honestly many reasons behind why that is. I've made a couple of videos talking about that before. But in relation to how it relates to, like, hostile internet cultures, I think that in the general...
You fill these parts in, just all...
including well-researched effects, such as the online disinhibition effect, which is the tendency for people to act differently online than they would in person. We see this all the time. When you're behind a faceless profile with a random username, you feel like you can get away with and say a lot more than you would in person. An example of this, which may be a little controversial, is what happened a little bit last year when a bunch of people...
Well, this would be blocked, actually.
Because they spoke ill on Nicki Minaj during the Nicki and Megan beef, not realizing that their IPs would be tracked back, and they ended up having some real-life repercussions because they did not think that their actions online would get back to them, because that's not something that they would necessarily do in person. When it comes to the online disinhibition effect, it really does have 2 different sides, because it can cause people to show up meaner than they would be in real life, or just generally more vulnerable and open up more than if you were face-to-face talking to someone. And I think that that's the beauty of it as well. That's one reason why a lot of people really love the internet, because it gives them the space to be vulnerable and open and talk about things and build platforms on things that they just don't feel comfortable talking about with anyone in their real lives or face-to-face. Like, for positive or negative, people feel really emboldened behind a screen. Like, between the anonymity of it all...
I don't want to. Okay.
I'm Janelle. I've never lived a day without technology. Is ruining education. Costs student use of technology are far outweighing the benefits.
The kids of today are not motivated at all. Even doing a fun book study, like they don't care.
So these kids just have these devices in their hands that they think will get them through the rest of their life, and they're failing in life. And in my class, these kids can't read. They can't code. They have no vocabulary, no background knowledge. I've never seen anything like it.
I think the schooling system is not preparing people for a world that exists. We haven't grasped the fact that AI is going to be the biggest, most disruptive technology in the lives of our children.
My kids will never be smarter than AI.
The calculator doesn't mean we stop teaching math. So we have to do the same kind of updating with artificial intelligence.
Unless we take personal accountability to teach and learn good skills, they will disappear.
How many people are fully doing all their schoolwork, writing their papers, getting their degrees using AI? We're so doomed. Students are facing academic challenges at levels we've never seen before. 40% of students across the nation can't read at a basic level, kind of trouble. And at this point, it's kind of an undeniable fact that kids are less than all right. As we see behavioral issues on the rise and cognitive
Oh, but we also need this.
Gen Alpha just can't catch a break, and no one can quite figure out why. But just as we thought it couldn't get worse, AI entered the scene. And now we have to deal with kids using ChatGPT to do their homework for them, meaning they don't even have to think for themselves anymore. As a parent with 2 littles entering the school age soon enough, I'm very nervous and confused about the schooling world and wonder what's even important in education anymore. Because in a modern world, is it really that bad for students to outgrow an education system designed?
Can I realistically make this in a reasonable amount of time? Actually, I can make this in my own world.
Technology is to blame, and if AI will be its redemption arc or fry every last brain cell Gen Alpha has left. So I was wondering where kids fall on this kids these days severity scale, because people have been raising their fists at the youth for generations now. We need look no further than the Offspring's 90s hit, The Kids Aren't Alright. So either they were ahead of their time, or kids are just made to be perpetually criticized. Well, we can start by looking at a recent headline, the elite college students who can't read books. Not the most promising place to start, but in this piece, Nicholas Dames, professor at Columbia University, shared his concerns, saying that over the past decade, students have become overwhelmed with reading and are bewildered by the thought that they have to finish multiple books in one semester. And it's not just that kids are struggling with reading novels, they don't know how to. One student even shared that she was never required to read an entire book in high school, but that is just the tip of the iceberg of the failing education system. So let's take it back all the way to elementary school, because this is an issue with many layers of challenges, where children are going through the early school years with foundational gaps and learning deficiencies. To start with reading, because it's the worst of them all, kids have never been so behind on reading levels. There's a reason why we see this trend of kids who don't know how to read on TikTok. And it's not all talk. To repeat for emphasis, 40% of first grade students were well below grade level in reading in 2020, compared with 27% in 2019.
I say this with the utmost love and patience that I can say. Y'all, the literacy rates right now are insane. They're crazy. Kids aren't reading. They're not recognizing letters. They're not recognizing letter sounds. This is going to go much deeper than we think it's going to go. There's teachers in 5th grade saying that their students are reading on the 2nd, 3rd grade level. I have students that can't recognize their letter sounds. I teach 1st grade.
So as you can see, this is a problem from day 1 of school for a lot of kids, where they aren't learning the foundations of reading, so they have nothing to build upon. As this 1st grade teacher shares, most years by the 3rd week of 1st grade, Heather Miller is working with her class on writing the beginning, middle, and end of simple words. This year, she had to backtrack all the way to the letter H.
We've all heard of the issues with these kids that are being raised on iPads and the parents blaming teachers and not being hands-on in their academics. But when I tell you I was absolutely flabbergasted at the interaction that I had with a child yesterday, I just have no words for it. I'm a bartender at a resort, and this family came up to the bar to order their food. One of the kids, who's about 8 or 9 years old, asked what flavor of Dippin' Dots we had, so I handed her a menu. This way she could read the flavors, and I was going to continue helping the rest of the party. When I tell you that I handed her the menu, and she looks at me dead in the eyes and goes, I can't read. I was left absolutely speechless for a few seconds. You're going to tell me around 2nd, 3rd grade can't read, and the trends only get worse as we move into the high school statistics, where in 2022, nearly 70% of 8th graders scored below proficient, and of those, 30% scored below basic. So that's how reading.
What the fuck did this one?
Well, it's also on a different sort of struggle bus. In spring 2023,
Oh,
just 56%
and
of
then
American 4th graders were
this has to get
on grade level in math, down from
deactivated.
69% in 2019. Now, as we
This,
know, a lot went on in the 2019-2020 school year to explain these numbers, and while school from home had a
this,
massive negative
this,
effect on kids' learning,
this.
it's not the initiator, but merely
That's
the
exactly what we
amplifier.
need.
Kids are just behind in reading
We
and math,
need
and they're not catching up. As we see here, over
this,
time, scores in reading and especially math
this,
have generally trended
this,
upward or held steady. But over the last decade or so,
this,
student scores have leveled off rather than gaining.
this,
And I just want to take a moment to
this,
emphasize how big a deal this is,
this.
because early education shapes a child's overall
Interesting.
experience.
We need that. We need all.
Low scores in math and reading specifically are a major cause for concern because these are the skills essential to success in nearly every other subject. When students struggle in these areas, it often leads to falling behind across the entire curriculum.
Every year that I've ever taught band, at the beginning of the year, when you're dealing with beginner musicians, the first thing that you do is teach them how to read notes on a music staff. And usually what I see in my classes when students are having a hard time identifying the note names on the staff, most of the time these issues have to deal with them not understanding that there's a line space, alternating orders. But this past year, it was different. They weren't just having those typical issues that you would have to work through. A lot of these kids would not even use alphabet symbols. They would be making up symbols. They would not even know how to write A, B, C, D, E, F, G on their piece of paper. They would also have issues not knowing alphabetical order in general. So if they knew how to write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they couldn't answer to me what letter would come after C in the alphabet. And I'm not just talking one or two kids in the class, I'm talking closer to 50%. We're talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, kids that are about to go into high school.
Research shows if children are struggling to read at the end of first grade, they're likely to still be struggling as 4th graders, and in many states with 3rd grade reading
And then
grades
this should turn
students
on.
could be at risk of getting held back if they haven't caught up within a few years. And so if you're not on track in, say, grade 2, then your likelihood of keeping up by the time you reach high school plummets. So now the question is, what the frick happened to education? All these stats of children falling behind are honestly so scary to hear as a parent, and has really opened my eyes about how involved we need to be. My oldest Brooke is entering kindergarten this fall, and so the importance of a well-rounded education has really just been on my mind, especially because we're going to be homeschooling, so his success literally falls on my shoulders. But with that, I've been scouring the web for resources to kickstart our education journey, and that's where today's partner comes in, IXL. IXL is an online learning program designed to offer first year or first month with IXL. So before we get into how technology specifically is changing school, we need to address the already prevalent issues in the school system. With that, I'm going to attempt to break down the problems in school, but that is a big task, especially when even teachers can't all agree on it, but I'll try my best.
Oh, wait.
Getting enough attention and the help they need in the classroom. I remember even when I was in grade school, class sizes were on the rise, and COVID just expedited that. Because as we know, we had a ton of teachers quitting during the 2020-2021 school year.
After years of being told don't like teachers, just quit, guess what teachers are doing? Quitting. In record numbers.
Some opting for early retirement during the height of the health crisis, while others left due to differing ideologies towards medicine. There was also a lot of burnout in juggling in-person teaching and...
This should activate the very, very last. That activates very last.
In fact, a survey...
Well, not the very, very last, actually.
Found that nearly 1/4 of
this should activate the very, very last.
Jobs at the end of the school year, compared with an average national turnover rate of 60%.
And we want this to turn on, which moves that. We want that to turn on.
Needed to increase because there's literally no other option when we already were dealing with a teacher shortage,
and then if I turn this off, it should close. It works for the beginning, but the end, we We need for this to also be like a open and close thing, not just a close, not just a open and thing. Because look, this opens perfect.
Has been problematic as well. How convenient. If you've been watching for a while, you've heard me talk about the problem of phonics in early education and how children across the country have been taught to be poor readers for decades now. I won't go too in depth on it because, like I said, I've talked about it before, but it is still needed in this conversation. So in the 90s, the standard for teaching reading to kids switched from phonics-based to what's called 3Qing.
Will this do anything?
New research was showing that kids learn reading better by being thrown into it head first rather than being
I see the problem now. We want this to turn off first. When it wants to close, turn this off first. Then we want this to go up. And then we want this to stay, this to go up after this one goes up. So it's this, gone. But in the beginning, it's just this, 1, 2, 3. It's simple. But now we gotta find a way to invert it, where we do this. We just do in the reverse order, but delay this even more.
Also, in researching for this video, I realized that I think I was taught some of the 3Qing growing up, which I guess makes sense because I'm a 90s baby, so obviously. But when I read one of the cues being skip over words and come back to it later, it like unlocked a memory for me of struggling to read as a kid. But the short version of phonics history is that school districts were convinced of this new system on the basis that children have an inherent ability to learn reading, just like they have the ability to learn to walk and talk all on their own. And so millions of taxpayer dollars.
We need something to activate this, like right there, and then this activates later.
And the problem here, as you can guess, is that they aren't actually reading.
Watch this. I fully reset it. Watch this. This is gonna work perfectly. But this doesn't work because we need this, this. This one at the active sign. This entire thing right here is completely fine because it does its job perfectly. What we need to work on is this entire setup. This 3 piston and redstone block setup is not working.
Realized lots of her students couldn't actually read the words in their books. Instead, they were memorizing sentence patterns and using the pictures to guess. One little boy exclaimed, "I can read this book with my eyes shut." Oh no, Goldberg thought, that is not reading. So, big problem. And the reason why kids aren't proficient readers, because when they grew up and grew out of picture books, they didn't have the skill set to decode new words. There is some good news at the end of this, though, as the tides are turning. We're now seeing the return of phonics curriculum, as at least 14 states have banned 3Qing from parts of the education system over the last few years. But we do still have to deal with the consequences of 2 generations being brought up on the 3Qing system. As before, I will link the Soul Story podcast, which tells the whole story of the phonics phenomenon, but in a true crime style. It's super fun to listen to, and I would highly recommend. On to math. From what I can see, there aren't any deep-rooted educational malpractices that are harming kids' math skills, but the fact still remains that math proficiencies have been decreasing. The most prominent reason for this, of course, was COVID. Average scores for age 9 students in 2022 declined 5 points in reading and 7 points in mathematics compared to 2020. This is the largest average score decline in reading since 1990, and the first ever score decline in mathematics. And while this was just a 2-year problem of children learning from home and not getting the math comprehension and help that they needed to get through it, the effects are serious and long-lasting.
This is again because of the compounding effect of losing your basic math skills. These
Math
mental
is
skills
easy.
grow bigger and bigger as the kids get older. But we can't just blame these poor math scores on one singular antagonist in this story. No, that would be too easy, because this is a complex issue that includes environmental and attitude issues from the children themselves. So let's talk about how kids are sabotaging their own education. For one, kids just don't think school is important anymore. In a world where they see millennials struggling to get jobs with their degrees in hand, the major layoffs in tech jobs that were supposed to be the largest growing and highest paying field in decades to come, and the growing reality that higher education doesn't always lead to the American dream. It's no wonder why students question whether it's worth the effort.
The kids of today are not motivated at all. Even doing a fun book study, like, they don't care. What's worse about not caring about their work is they don't care about consequences. They don't care if they get in trouble. They don't care if they get school suspension. They don't care if they call their parents. How do you battle that? You can't. It's like you're fighting against a unmovable log. It's just so draining and disheartening when you're putting your heart and soul into something for, like, hardly any care. I feel for the kids that care, but man.
But I don't believe that these ideas of school not preparing you for the real world are the only reasons students are losing ambition. Rather, they reinforce the mindset of those who are already struggling and offer a convenient justification for why they don't need to push through and fight to succeed in school. Because it's not just math
I got
and
it.
reading comprehension that are
I got it.
short.
I got it. I understand. I understand. I understand it. I understand it.
They shape how children see themselves in relation to learning. When students struggle early on, they often adopt the belief that they're just simply not good at school, which diminishes their motivation to improve.
I think I get it now. I get it now. I get it now.
Their confidence continues to decline.
But this will add a fucking ton of layers.
Feels impossible. Student test scores, even starting in first,
That's
second,
a
and
fuck
third
ton of
grade, are
layers.
really quite predictive of their success later in school and their education trajectories overall. Being
So,
far
since
behind
this is
teaches
on,
disengagement
when I
in
turn this
school,
off, those should
less
turn on.
likely they graduate from high school or attend
Yes,
college. And to tie this
it
back to my
does.
previous video about children growing up fragile with no grit to push through hard things, they tend to just sink into this identity of being bad in school. And once that mindset takes hold, it becomes incredibly difficult to pull them out of it. But to get further into the mind of a teenager, a scary thought, I know, there are a lot of mental setbacks.
So, if this turns off,
among adolescents
that goes
aged
up, that
12
goes
to
up.
17, the percentage who
This
received
this
mental
goes
health
up
services
first,
in
then
specialty
then
mental
this,
health
which
setting
is
in the
perfect.
past year increased from 11.8% in 2002 to 16.7% in 2019. And the idea of kids' mental health deteriorating has had some pushback because it could just be that there's more reporting and diagnoses of mental health problems, because there are. But there's also strong evidence that things like social media are doing immense damage on children's mental health. Children and adolescents who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of mental health problems, including experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety. And these mental health challenges, of course, play a role in how motivated and capable a child is in the classroom. And this is where, finally, technology enters the conversation. Because on top of the mental health problems that modern technology brings, these screens are also turning our children into goldfish with non-existent attention spans.
These kids get bored very easily, and the moment they get bored, they look to stimulate themselves or to do something that makes them feel interested, and that is very regularly not good choices.
The constant notifications and multitasking habits prevent students from fully engaging with learning materials, resulting in weaker memory retention. As research indicates, frequent switching between tasks such as checking social media while studying hampers the formation of strong long-term memories. Many teachers have come forward and said that kids can't pay attention anymore because they're so accustomed to short-form content, and anything longer, they check out or doze off.
Every teacher is looking for a way to keep their Gen Alpha kids engaged in their lessons. Traditional teaching methods do not work. Most of them are consuming video games and short-form content, so why not teach like that? Watch how I take a regularly boring and tough to explain topic and
This
turn
left
it
one
into a
first,
captivating
middle
short-form
one.
video in minutes. All I had to do was type in a 3-sentence prompt and gave it some simple instructions on the format and the type of voice I wanted. Press generate. Imagine you had a superpower that made you weigh less. Sounds amazing, right? Okay, here's the scoop. Your mass is like the amount of stuff you're made of. It never changes.
Speaking of dozing off, though, as previously mentioned
again. Kids aren't getting enough sleep with their unregulated screen time, and so they don't have the ability to learn in class when they're literally fighting sleep the whole lesson. Education is so messy right now.
I thought I hated technology because I've had kids growing up and they just have too much access to games and entertainment, and they don't want to use technology for education, they want to use it for entertainment. And to a degree that's true, but what I've been learning is more than that, and that technology is directly contributing to the literacy decrease we are seeing in this country right now. A lot of these kids don't know how to read because they have had things read to them, or they can click a button and have something read out loud to them in seconds. Their attention spans are waning because everything is high stimulation. They can scroll much less than a minute. They can't sit still very long. Something I realized is, like, on a day, I know when I was their age, I thought movie days were a treat. I loved movie days. It was a way to relax, kind of take a break, and for them, what they mean when they say they want a movie is they want a movie on the background for the noise while they scroll on their phones, put their headphones in, look at TikTok, and maybe talk to their friends and not pay attention to anything.
And the combination of all of that means that kids are dealing with long-term memory issues. And you know what subject suffers the most from that? Math. Because every year's skills stack upon the previous, and if you can't remember it, then you're stuck falling behind. The constant information overload from kids' phones and social media is memory in school.
Why?
They can't handle so much information at once, and when it's always being fed new information, it's hard to store everything and differentiate between what's important.
Have you ever felt like memory just isn't as sharp after spending hours scrolling on social media? That's not your imagination, and there's actual science behind this. So let me explain. Research has found that people who frequently multitask with digital media have reduced sustained attention and working memory. And social media constantly bombards your brain with quick, ever-changing information, training it to crave instant gratification instead of being focused. You rapidly switch between posts, videos, and notifications. You're not fully engaging with anyone.
Okay, so we want.
So your brain doesn't encode it properly into memory.
Harvard psychologist Daniel Schachter said that while technology can aid in certain cognitive functions, it can also impair our ability to recall information. Schachter explains that when students frequently shift their focus between tasks, such as checking their phones while studying, they don't fully engage with the material. This makes it harder for students to form long-term memories. Additionally, students depend on technology to help them remember more than their own memory. And so if we're looking at whether or not technology has been bad for kids in their journey through school, I think there's
We
definitely
need this.
something said about not using it too early on to prevent overstimulation in like the elementary years. But if the claim is that technology is overall bad
We
and
need this to
laptops
turn
in the
off and
classroom
on.
are harmful, I don't think that's true. The real problem here is
We did. Everything's so perfect. It's so perfect right now. I can't even lie. Everything right now is going so swell. Literally, all we need is for this one to turn off and on.
AI in schools, because as much as many teachers want to avoid it, there's no way around students using AI. So how on earth do we navigate this, and what are the implications moving forward? Well, the main problem we've been seeing since 2023, when ChatGPT went live to the public, was, as we know, high school students are straight up using it to do their homework for them. And since then, things have only gotten worse because obviously people opt for not doing work if they can. The share of teens who say they use ChatGPT for their schoolwork has risen to 26%.
Look at this. It's so good. It's working so well. I'm just missing one piece of the puzzle here. These two things are pissing me off. This one's fine. We just need this to go up. We just need for these two to go up and down. Go down and then up during the middle of this. So how would I do this?
But you go to university to learn a certain skill set and use it in the real world, ideally.
But in terms of like using it to cheat in college, I work in higher ed, and I just want to say, like, wither half-ass your work. That's the time-honored tradition of college. Do your own work badly. Do a shit job. Learning to half-ass things is such an important life skill, and your professors want to see that. Like, they want to see your insane 2 a.m. overall up brain working. You know? Like, that's part of college, is turning in shit that makes absolutely no sense.
So you're really just wasting your money on classes you're learning nothing from, and then you'll enter the workforce with no capacity to comprehend or act on the job's requirements? What is going on? It's a very interesting phenomenon that we'll see play out more in the next 5 years. However, some teachers have accepted the reality of AI as just another tool in our tool belts. Many compare it to calculators not being allowed in math class because we were expected to memorize and master those skills. But once we entered the real world with constant access to these tools on our phones, we found the memorization unnecessary. But people have been saying the same thing with AI, that kids shouldn't have to learn how to research for a paper because in the new world of AI, that's a dead skill.
It does mean we have to change how we test for knowledge. If a student can use ChatGPT to write an essay and get a B, we need to test for that knowledge in new ways. And it doesn't mean writing goes away, right? The calculator doesn't mean we stop teaching math. We have to test for a lot harder concepts in math as a result.
But the problem with this argument is that AI, or at least the current version of AI that we have, isn't as cut and dry of a tool as a calculator is, because it still has so many issues in giving false information. So if children are taking what it says in blind faith, then they're not only not learning critical thinking skills, they're also just plain wrong. As said here, today's AI bots are based on complex mathematical systems that learn their skills by analyzing
what is it called? This observer is really good.
What is false. Sometimes they just make stuff up. A phenomenon some AI researchers call
it only activates once.
On one test, the hallucination rate
it only activates once. So an observer here would actually go crazy.
This is especially a problem when the students are using AI to write papers and then teachers use AI to grade said papers, because then it just becomes this self-reinforcing feedback loop where inaccuracies and misinformation perpetuate without human oversight. Like, what a freaking dystopian world we live in. AI is just only as good as the data it's fed, and at least at this point in AI technology, if we aren't checking its sources, then we're just feeding into the hallucinations. And on the topic of using AI as a tool, many say that as long as we don't use it blindly and instead use it properly, it can be beneficial to learning. Examples being it can be used as a research tool for papers, as long as you check your references. It's great for brainstorming, learning new skills, amplifying creativity, and much more. They say that kids just need to not abuse it and they'll be fine. The difference lies in the intention. But I don't think that's really realistic, because history shows us that no major technological advancement has ever been used solely for good without also exposing us to its darker consequences. Let's take the U.S. Railroad, for example, which was arguably the most important technological advancement of U.S.
Oh my god, it's the wrong way. I'm so stupid.
But while it
I literally just said I put it the wrong way.
Regions, fostering economic growth, there also came many problems like the heavy toll on the environment, as the railroad made it easy for large numbers of hunters to travel and kill millions of buffalo, and significantly impact
I figured it out! I did it! All of this! Holy shit, I figured it out! I figured it out! So, if I turn this off and on, it should work. Okay.
The algorithm that manipulates us into doom scrolling. No one's surprised smartphones aren't making us smarter, and
Let's turn it off and it should do it. I'm a genius. I'm a genius. I'm a Minecraft genius. I figured it out. I figured it out. I figured it out.
That's why young people are
I figured out how to make it. I know how to make a 3x3 now. I just gotta follow this schematic. That's just noted in my head. Just not that. That's just a waste of time. We just ignore this. Ignore this. This, all of this is literally perfect. Now let's just optimize this.
So why would we expect kids to use AI honorably when their natural instinct is to find the path of least resistance in education? Or ever, I guess. Unless the person using AI has the wisdom and willpower to use it to improve their learning rather than for entertainment,
they will rarely use it in this way. And if we're honest, young people aren't typically known for their wisdom and self-control. No offense, your frontal cortex still needs to develop. But besides the fact that kids are now learning their subjects by copying and pasting excerpts off of chat, the real problem that we've alluded to is that they aren't learning the skill of learning. When AI is used for research papers or math problems, kids aren't learning how to actually do the research, how to form a comprehensive argument, how to decipher real sources from fake. They become so dependent on AI that they can't really think for themselves.
So instead, you don't want to be in a situation where you've got university who didn't start the workforce and
And the deactivated should still work.
how to learn, just have the opportunity to take shortcut here, shortcut here, shortcut here.
Fuck yes! I've never felt so fucking happy in my life. I figured out how to make the middle part go away. I know how to make a 3x3 donut. All I gotta do is just now let's do it right now.
Results in students not knowing how to do the most basic things.
Okay.
When you give children who already have a low capacity to learn access to technology that does all the work for them, the problem just amplifies.
It's frustrating and it's disheartening because if I ask a child to handwrite something, even just a paragraph, 5 sentences, basic paragraph, they roll their eyes, they throw tantrums, I'm talking about high schoolers, it's 10th grade now. They get really, really unruly, and because I'm young too, they want to argue with me about it, and they want to say, why can't we just type it? Why can't we just type it? Well, it's because you'll go on another website, or you'll copy it, or use AI, you'll use ChatGPT. I understand that our world is going in a direction where AI is going to be more prevalent, even in the workforce someday. That still doesn't take away that these are basic skills you need to survive.
This high school teacher shares their experience with it, saying, "What concerns me the most about this debate is what no one is talking about, adolescent brain development. This year there is a serious decrease in the lack of thinking ability in grade 9 students. It's actually shocking. I mean really shocking. And that happened when AI had been available to them for only a year. I want to hear more from brain researchers on this. Someone needs to start talking about how adolescent brains work and what teens need to be doing in order to fully develop their prefrontal cortex, for example. Do we want to end up living in a society like in
I feel so happy because look at this.
That's exactly where we're headed. Take a brain that's ripe for development, feed it social media, attention-reducing TikTok videos, and misinformation.
Look at it. It's how I want.
Happens next.
I'm so fucking happy, bro. Fuck yes.
Assuming that AI will improve and become a reliable source of information. Because they say that AGI, artificial general intelligence, is coming by the year 2030, which is really soon, and could solve all these flaws we discussed. But I myself am hesitant to take that prediction.
That's an easy one.
But also, I'm not a tech person, so take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But AGI is when AI becomes smarter than and indistinguishable from humans, and is able to progress the world and change it beyond our ability to even predict. First of all, scary, but the reason I find it kind of sus that they're like, yep, 2030, that's when we'll have it, is just because we've been gaslit about tech advances so many times, so why this time would we take their word for it? Like, I know they're advancing quickly, but I don't like these predictions. Like, look at Apple Intelligence that was supposed to come out in 2024 and still has yet to be good enough to be actually useful at all. But taking it even further back, we had Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of
Bro, get out of my...
technology would revolutionize blood testing with a single finger prick of blood, performing multiple tests. And now, she's in jail for fraud. My point being that everything I say moving forward is on the basis that all the silicon tech pros aren't stretching the truth. But one of the positive predictions of AI in the future is that it could solve our teacher shortage issue. Instead of one teacher teaching kids, with AI we have a digital teacher assigned to each student. With an AI-enhanced high-dose tutoring model, every student can have access to their own virtual tutor that adapts to their pace, understands their strengths and weaknesses, and provides targeted support. This allows personalized learning to be more accessible. This is a really promising probability as more educational support can really boost those math skills and reading scores for those who are struggling. The other thing that we have to think about is that the world is changing so much that the format of education that was established in the 1900s methods is arguably not even applicable to the modern day. So why should we be holding so tightly onto it? Modern education is heavily based on the structure of producing workers who follow orders without question. There is great reward for following the rules and repetition for no reason other than the benefits to those above you. The issue with that structure of repetition and simply following orders is that it is based on an industrial age-like society where those traits of being able to simply follow orders and repetition were rewarded. And that just doesn't matter when there's so much demand for innovation, creativity, thinking outside the box, and the ability to collaborate with others. And that brings up the question of whether education really matters at the end of the day. Like in 50 years, will it be helpful at all for children to learn problem-solving skills and think critically when AI will be so integrated into our lives that it's just not applicable anymore? Definitely a weird thought, but a good question to have moving forward, because if we all had Elon's chips in our heads, then thinking is over anyways. Even saying that, my brain really wants to push back against it, holding on to my ideologies of how important education is. But if we really think about it, if AI is running the world and solving all of our problems, it doesn't matter if kids can write an essay or solve a math problem. I'm really not sure. So, is tech good or bad for education? Well, we hate to hear it, but it's a bit of both. It's very much bad if you're using it badly. Like, the effects of cell phones on kids cannot be understated, that it's really ruining education for them. But I don't think it's bad to have technology in the classroom. Like, we had it when we were in school, and there weren't any learning deficiencies at that time, right? It's just having the right technology, not the wrong technology. I also think it is important, in fact, to have technology in school because kids should get trained on it because that's what the real world is like. It just can't become a crutch. Also, I want to acknowledge that it's just really scary to be a parent right now, and I know every generation of parents says that, but like, it's just so crazy. And the only thing I can hold on to is the fact that we can help guide our children through this and do the best we can to teach them the rights and wrongs of technology. As for my predictions on AI, it's just that, a prediction. Like, it's my best guess based on what we're at right now, but that can change in a year with regulations or advancements or setbacks. So, you know, it's just a conversation still. So that's all I have for today. Make sure you subscribe if you want to keep up with my 2 video essays per month. Also, check out my new merch if you want to join the Embers Research Society. I wish you all a sunny day where you can go out and breathe fresh air before AI takes that away from us. Bye.
I'm gonna blame this. I've just been like playing it. I don't know. An hour? Wow. I'll say the last 30 minutes. With full video? Nah, just post this entire hour of me figuring out how to like build a damn fucking 3x3 door. That's actually kind of low-key fire idea. I have 7 minutes left anyways. And I'll save it, and then I'll do like